The clock on Daniel's dashboard showed 11:47 p.m. when he finally left the restaurant. Another late business dinner. Another night missing bedtime stories with his daughter. He loosened his tie and sighed, thinking about 6-year-old Sophie sleeping at home with the nanny. Being a single father and running a tech company meant constantly juggling two worlds, and lately, he felt like he was dropping both balls. The mountain road back to the city was empty at this hour. Just winding curves, tall trees on both sides, and the occasional deer that made him slow down. Daniel had driven this route 100 times. He knew every turn, every pothole. It was peaceful, actually, a chance to decompress before getting home. That's when he saw the orange glow ahead. At first, he thought maybe someone was camping illegally, but as he came around the bend, his headlights caught something that made his stomach drop. A car was on fire about 50 yards off the main road, flames climbing up from the engine hood. Black smoke poured into the night sky. Daniel's first instinct was to call 911 and keep driving. Getting involved in situations like this could be dangerous. But something made him slow down. Something felt wrong about the scene. The car wasn't crashed. It was just sitting there, parked at an odd angle, burning. He pulled over and grabbed his phone, dialing emergency services as he got out. The operator answered on the second ring. "There's a car on fire on Route 7 about 2 miles past the Cedar Ridge exit," Daniel said, already walking toward the burning vehicle. "Send fire trucks and an ambulance." "Sir, please stay in your vehicle," the operator warned. "Help is on the way." But Daniel was already running, because now he could see something that made his blood run cold. There was someone inside the car. A figure in white was slumped against the steering wheel. The heat hit him like a wall when he got closer. The flames were spreading fast, moving from the engine toward the passenger compartment. Through the smoke and fire, he could make out a woman. She was wearing what looked like a wedding dress. Her head was down, dark hair covering her face. "Hey!" Daniel shouted, trying the driver's door. "Locked. Can you hear me? You need to get out." The woman didn't move. Daniel ran to the passenger side, but that door was locked too. Panic rising in his chest, he looked around desperately for something to break the window. The heat was getting worse. He could hear the fire crackling, growing louder and more aggressive. That's when he spotted the tire iron in the grass nearby. Had someone left it there? No time to think about it. Daniel grabbed the metal bar and swung hard at the driver's side window. The glass shattered on the second hit, and he reached through to unlock the door. Smoke poured out, making him cough and his eyes water. He yanked the door open and reached for the woman, trying to pull her out. But she wouldn't move. Something was holding her in place. Through streaming eyes, Daniel looked closer. His heart nearly stopped. There was a chain. A thick metal chain was wrapped around her wrists and locked to the steering wheel. What kind of accident was this? This wasn't an accident at all. "Come on, wake up." Daniel shook her shoulder gently. The woman stirred slightly but didn't open her eyes. Behind them, he could hear the fire getting closer. They had maybe a minute before the whole car was engulfed. Daniel grabbed the tire iron again and wedged it between the chain links. He pulled, with everything he had, using the doorframe as leverage. The chain was strong, but it was old. On his third attempt, one of the links snapped. The moment the chain broke free, Daniel pulled the woman from the car. She was surprisingly light, or maybe adrenaline was making him stronger. He half carried, half dragged her away from the burning vehicle, moving as fast as he could across the rough ground. They'd made it about 20 feet when the car exploded. The force of it knocked Daniel forward. He twisted his body to protect the woman, landing hard on his shoulder with her on top of him. Heat washed over them, and debris rained down around them. For a moment, Daniel just lay there, breathing hard, his ears ringing from the explosion. Then he felt the woman move. She was coughing, struggling to breathe. He helped her sit up, supporting her back. "It's okay," he said, though his own voice was shaking. "You're safe now. An ambulance is coming." In the light from the burning car, he got his first real look at her. She was young, maybe late 20s. Her wedding dress was torn and dirty, covered in soot. There were burns on her wrists where the chain had been. But it was her eyes that caught him when she finally looked up, wide, terrified, confused. "They tried to kill me," she whispered, her voice hoarse from smoke. Then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed against him. Daniel held her, feeling her pulse at her neck, still alive, still breathing. In the distance, he could finally hear sirens approaching. The next hour was a blur. Paramedics arrived and rushed the woman into an ambulance. Police officers asked Daniel questions while another crew put out what remained of the car fire. He told them everything he'd seen, about the chain, about how the car wasn't crashed but just sitting there burning. "You probably saved her life," one of the officers said, taking notes. "Did she say anything to you?" "Just one thing," Daniel replied. "She said, 'They tried to kill me before she passed out.'" The officers exchanged glances. This wasn't a simple car accident. This was something much darker. Daniel followed the ambulance to the hospital. He wasn't sure why. Maybe because he needed to know she was going to be okay. Maybe because of what she'd said. Or maybe because when he'd looked into her terrified eyes, he'd felt something shift inside him. A protective instinct he hadn't felt since his wife died 3 years ago. At the hospital, doctors rushed the woman into the emergency room. Daniel sat in the waiting area, still smelling like smoke, his dress shirt torn and dirty. He called the nanny to check on Sophie, who was sleeping peacefully. Then he just waited. 2 hours later, a doctor came out. "She's stable. Smoke inhalation. Some burns on her wrists and hands, but she'll recover physically." "That's good," Daniel said, relief flooding through him. "Did she wake up? Does she remember what happened?" The doctor hesitated. "That's the complicated part. She woke up, but she doesn't remember anything. Not her name, not where she's from, not how she ended up in that car. The police found no identification on her. No purse, no phone, nothing. It's like someone stripped her of everything before they tried to kill her." The words hung in the air, unspoken but understood. "Can I see her?" Daniel asked. The doctor studied him for a moment. "Are you family?" "No, but I'm the one who pulled her out." Something in the doctor's expression softened. "5 minutes. She's in room 214. Daniel walked down the quiet hospital corridor, his footsteps echoing. He didn't know what he was going to say. He just knew he needed to see her awake, needed to know she was really going to be okay. When he pushed open the door, she was sitting up in bed, staring at her bandaged wrists. She looked up when he entered, and again he was struck by those eyes. Brown, deep, haunted. "You saved me," she said softly. "The nurses told me." "How are you feeling?" Daniel asked, staying near the door. Confused, scared. She looked down at her hands. "I can't remember who I am. I can see pieces, a wedding dress, flowers, people laughing, then men in dark suits, then pain and fire. But it's all jumbled up, nothing makes sense." "The police are investigating," Daniel said. "They'll figure out who you are." "What if those men find me first?" Her voice cracked. "What if they come back, to finish what they started?" Daniel found himself walking closer. "I won't let that happen." The words surprised him even as he said them. This woman was a complete stranger. But somehow, in that burning car, their lives had become connected. He'd pulled her from death, and now he felt responsible for keeping her alive. "Do you remember anything?" he asked gently. "A name? Anything at all?" She closed her eyes, concentrating. "Lily, I think. I think someone called me Lily. But I don't know if that's really my name." "Lily," Daniel repeated. "It's a start." Outside the room, he could hear the police arriving to question her, but in that moment, looking at this mysterious woman in the hospital bed, Daniel had a strange feeling that saving her was just the beginning. Something told him their story was far from over, and he had no idea just how right he was. The next morning, Daniel stood in his kitchen making coffee when his phone rang. It was the hospital. Lily had discharged herself against medical advice. She was gone. He drove straight to the hospital, his mind racing. The nurse at the desk looked uncomfortable when he asked about her. "She left around 6 this morning," the nurse explained. "She seemed agitated. Kept saying she couldn't stay here, that it wasn't safe. We tried to convince her to stay, but we couldn't force her. Daniel's lawyer would kill him for what he did next. But something in his gut told him Lily was in real danger, and leaving her out on the streets with no memory and no identification felt wrong on every level. He found her 3 blocks from the hospital, still wearing the hospital scrubs they'd given her, sitting on a bench looking lost and scared. When she saw him, relief washed over her face. "I didn't know where else to go," she admitted. "I have no money, no ID, nothing. And I keep feeling like someone's watching me." Daniel made a decision that would change everything. "Come with me. I have a guest house on my property. You can stay there until we figure this out." "I can't ask you to do that," Lily protested. "You've already done so much when you're not asking." "I'm offering." Daniel kept his voice gentle but firm. "Look, someone tried to kill you last night. Until we know who and why, you need somewhere safe to recover." The drive to his house was quiet. Lily stared out the window, occasionally touching the bandages on her wrists like she was trying to convince herself it was all real. Daniel lived in a gated community in the hills, the kind of place with security cameras and guards at the entrance. The guest house was small but comfortable, separate from the main house where he and Sophie lived. "It's perfect," Lily said, looking around the cozy space. "Thank you. I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "Just focus on getting better and remembering," Daniel said. "I'll bring you some clothes and food. My daughter Sophie will probably want to meet you. She's 6 and very curious about everything." He wasn't prepared for how quickly Sophie would fall in love with Lily. That afternoon, when Sophie came home from school, she spotted Lily through the window and immediately wanted to know who she was. "She's a friend who needs a place to stay for a while," Daniel explained carefully. Sophie, with all the innocence of childhood, simply accepted this. Within an hour, she was showing Lily her toy collection and chattering away about her day at school. Daniel watched from the doorway, surprised at how natural Lily was with his daughter. She listened intently, asked questions, laughed at Sophie's jokes. It was like she'd known Sophie her whole life. "She's good with kids," his nanny Rita observed that evening. "Natural at it." Over the next few days, Lily's memories started coming back in pieces. But they weren't happy pieces. She would wake up screaming from nightmares, fragments of memories that made no sense but terrified her. Daniel would hear her from the main house and come check on her. One night, 4 days after the rescue, Lily knocked on his door at 2 in the morning. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. "I remembered something," she said. "Something terrible." They sat in Daniel's living room and Lily told him what she'd seen in her dreams. A wedding reception, champagne, dancing, then feeling dizzy, being led away by her fiancé, his voice in her ear, cold and calculating, talking to someone about how once the marriage was legal, everything would be his. Her trying to scream, to run, but her body wouldn't cooperate. The drugs were too strong. "I heard him say my father's company," Lily whispered. "He mentioned Morrison Pharmaceuticals, and then I remember being in a car, unable to move, smelling gasoline, hearing them argue about whether to shoot me or let the fire do it. They chose fire because it would look like an accident." Daniel's blood ran cold. Morrison Pharmaceuticals. He knew that company. Everyone in the business world did. It was worth billions. The next morning, he called a private investigator he'd used for background checks at his company. A tough, no-nonsense woman named Janet Chen who'd been in law enforcement for 20 years before going private. "I need you to look into Morrison Pharmaceuticals," Daniel said. "Specifically anyone connected to the family who recently got married or was about to." Janet called him back 3 hours later. Her voice was serious. "You need to see this in person," she said. They met at a coffee shop. Janet spread out newspapers and documents across the table. Daniel's hands went numb as he read the headlines. "Heiress Olivia Morrison dies in tragic car accident on wedding night." There was a photo. It was Lily, the woman living in his guest house playing with his daughter, slowly recovering from trauma. She wasn't just anyone. She was Olivia Morrison, daughter of pharmaceutical billionaire Richard Morrison, who died 2 years ago. According to this, Janet continued, she married attorney Vincent Hartwell 3 weeks ago. On their wedding night, she died in a car accident. The funeral was last week. She's legally dead. Except she's not, Daniel said, his mind reeling. She's alive. They tried to kill her, but she survived. There's more, Janet said grimly. She pulled out more documents. Vincent Hartwell comes from old money, but his family's been broke for years. They've been living on credit and reputation. Olivia's inheritance from her father is worth over $2 billion. As her husband, Vincent now controls everything. So he married her to steal her company, Daniel said, anger building in his chest. And when she figured it out or tried to back out, he decided to kill her and make it look like an accident. It gets worse. Janet pulled out older newspaper clippings. I did some digging into Vincent's past. He was engaged twice before, both times to wealthy women. Both women died in accidents shortly after the engagements. One in a boating incident, another fell downstairs. Neither case was thoroughly investigated because the families were too grief-stricken, and the Hartwells are connected. Vincent's father used to be a judge. Daniel felt sick. He's done this before, multiple times, and he's gotten away with it every time, Janet confirmed. These people are dangerous, Daniel. If they find out Olivia is alive, they'll try again. That evening, Daniel sat Lily down and showed her everything. He watched her face as she processed the information. She looked at the photos of herself in newspapers, at her wedding pictures, at the face of the man she'd almost married. Vincent, she whispered. That's his name. I remember him now. How charming he was at first. How attentive. My father had just died and I was so lonely. Vincent seemed perfect. Tears rolled down her cheeks. It was all a lie. He never loved me. He just wanted my father's company. He's telling everyone you're dead, Daniel said gently. He's already started transferring assets, taking control of Morrison Pharmaceuticals. Your company, your father's legacy, he's stealing it all. Lily stood up and walked to the window, her shoulders shaking. My father spent his whole life building that company. Not just to make money, but to help people. He wanted to make medicine affordable, to research rare diseases that other companies ignored. Vincent will destroy all of that. He'll sell to the highest bidder. Then we need to stop him, Daniel said. But we have to be smart about it. These people have already tried to kill you once. Over the next week, Daniel and Janet worked on gathering evidence. But it wasn't easy. The Hartwells had covered their tracks well. The car that burned had been registered to a company that didn't exist. The chains were generic, bought with cash. There were no witnesses. Meanwhile, Lily was struggling with more than just memories. She was technically dead. She had no access to her money, her home, her identity. Everything she owned now belonged to Vincent. It's like I've been erased, she told Daniel one evening. They were sitting on his back porch while Sophie played in the yard. Even if we prove what Vincent did, I don't know if I can prove I'm really Olivia Morrison. I've been declared dead. There was a death certificate, a funeral, everything. Daniel watched Sophie chase butterflies, thinking about how quickly his life had changed. A week ago, his biggest worry was balancing work and fatherhood. Now he was harboring a woman everyone thought was dead, going up against a family of killers. Sophie really likes you, he said quietly. Lily smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. She's an amazing kid. You're doing a great job with her. It's hard sometimes, Daniel admitted.
Her mother died when she was 3.
Sometimes I feel like I'm failing at both jobs, being a father and running a company. You're not failing, Lily said firmly. Sophie is happy and loved. That's what matters. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Lily's expression changed. She sat up straight, staring at something past the fence. Daniel, she said quietly, her voice tense. That black car across the street? It's been there for the past hour, and I think I've seen it before. Daniel looked where she was pointing. A black sedan was parked down the street, windows tinted. As they watched, the car's engine started. Get Sophie inside, Daniel said, trying to keep his voice calm. Now. Lily ran into the yard and scooped up Sophie, who protested at having her playtime interrupted. Daniel grabbed his phone, ready to call security. But the car just drove away slowly, deliberately, like whoever was inside wanted them to know they'd been watching. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. Someone knew Lily was here. Someone was watching. The Hartwells had found her, and it was only a matter of time before they made their next move. He checked all the locks twice, made sure the security system was armed, and kept his phone close. In the guest house, he could see Lily's light was still on too. Neither of them felt safe anymore. The hunter had found them, and the real game was just beginning. The black car showed up again 2 days later. This time at Sophie's school, Daniel got the call from the principal at noon. Mr. Chen, I wanted to inform you that a man came to the office today asking questions about Sophie. He claimed to be a family friend, but when we asked for identification and your authorization, he left quickly. Daniel's heart stopped. What did he look like? Tall dark suit, sunglasses. Our receptionist said he gave her an uneasy feeling. We've increased security and added a note to Sophie's file that only you and Rita can pick her up. Daniel left work immediately. He pulled Sophie out of school early, ignoring her protests about missing art class. At home, he found Lily pacing in the guest house, her face pale. They know about Sophie, Daniel said. They're using her to get to you. Lily's hands were shaking. I should leave. I'm putting you both in danger. This isn't fair to you. You're not going anywhere, Daniel said firmly. These people tried to kill you once. If you leave here without protection, they'll finish the job. We just need to be smarter. That night, Daniel made arrangements they should have made days ago. He hired private security to watch the house. He had his tech team install additional cameras and motion sensors. He rented a secure apartment across town where they could go if things got worse. But the real problem remained. How could they prove what Vincent had done when he had judges, lawyers, and money on his side? How could they bring a dead woman back to life legally? Janet had been working on that question. She showed up at Daniel's office 3 days later with news. I found something, she said, spreading files across his desk. Remember I told you Vincent was engaged twice before? Well, I tracked down the family of the woman who supposedly died in the boating accident. Her name was Catherine Wells. Her sister never believed it was an accident. Can we talk to her? Daniel asked. Better than that. She's willing to testify. She's been gathering evidence for 8 years, waiting for someone to listen. She has emails, photos, documents showing how Vincent isolated Catherine from her family, convinced her to change her will. And then 3 weeks after the wedding, Catherine was dead. Daniel felt a spark of hope. So we're not alone in this. There's more, Janet continued. I've been digging into the Hartwell family finances. They're not just broke, they're drowning in debt. Vincent's father, the retired judge, owes millions to some very dangerous people. They needed Olivia's money desperately. This wasn't just greed. This was survival for them. Armed with this information, Daniel and Lily made a plan. But it was risky. Terrifyingly risky. We need to go public, Lily said. If we try to do this quietly through the courts, the Hartwells will use their connections to bury everything. But if we expose them in front of the world, they won't be able to hide. How? Daniel asked. Lily's eyes were determined. There's a charity gala next week. The Medical Innovation Awards. It's the biggest event of the year for pharmaceutical companies. Vincent will be there accepting an award in my father's name. In my name. He's presenting himself as the grieving widower carrying on his late wife's legacy. You want to show up there? Daniel couldn't believe what he was hearing. That's incredibly dangerous. It's the only way, Lily insisted. With cameras everywhere, reporters, hundreds of witnesses. He can't make me disappear in front of all those people. And if we time it right, if we have all the evidence ready to release the moment I appear, he won't have time to spin a new story. Daniel ran his hands through his hair, thinking. It was bold. Maybe too bold. But Lily was right. Fighting the Hartwells in court could take years, and they didn't have years. Every day that passed, Vincent was consolidating his control over Morrison Pharmaceuticals, selling off divisions, canceling the humanitarian programs Olivia's father had started. Okay, Daniel finally said, but we do this my way. Full security. Complete preparation. And if at any point I think it's too dangerous, we abort. The next week was a blur of planning. Daniel used every resource his company had. His security team mapped out the gala venue. His tech people prepared to live stream everything and release documents online simultaneously. Janet coordinated with Catherine Wells and gathered more evidence. Lily worked with a lawyer Daniel trusted to prepare the legal documents they'd need to prove her identity and reclaim her company. She gave DNA samples, fingerprints, and detailed information about her life that only the real Olivia Morrison would know. Meanwhile, they had to keep Sophie safe. Daniel made the hardest decision of his life. He sent his daughter to stay with his parents in another state, telling her it was a surprise vacation. Sophie was excited, but the goodbye nearly broke his heart. When will you come get me, Daddy? Sophie asked at the airport. Soon, sweetheart, Daniel promised, hugging her tight. I just have some important work to do first. Sophie waved goodbye, holding her grandmother's hand, and Daniel felt a piece of his heart go with her. But at least she'd be safe. Whatever happened at the gala, Sophie wouldn't be anywhere near the fallout. 2 days before the event, something unexpected happened. Lily was helping Daniel sort through documents in his home office when her hand froze over a photograph. "I know this woman," she said, pointing to a picture in one of Janet's files. Daniel looked. It was a photo of a woman who worked in Vincent's law firm. "That's his assistant, Rebecca Hall. Why?" "She was at my wedding," Lily said, her memory suddenly sharp. But she wasn't celebrating. She kept watching Vincent with this strange expression, like she was sad or angry or both. Lily closed her eyes, concentrating. "I remember now. I saw them arguing before the ceremony." She was crying, telling him he didn't have to do this, and he told her to stay out of it, that it was business. "You think there's something between them?" Daniel asked. "I think she loves him," Lily said, "and I think she knows what he did to me." Janet tracked Rebecca down that same day. She worked late at the law office most nights, alone. Janet approached her in the parking garage, showing her photos of Catherine Wells, of other women who'd been connected to Vincent. "You know what he is," Janet said to Rebecca. "You know what he does to these women. Are you really going to let him keep getting away with it?" Rebecca broke down. She'd been Vincent's girlfriend before he started his pattern of marrying wealthy women. He'd promised her that after he secured enough money, they'd be together. But 5 years and 3 dead women later, Rebecca finally understood the truth. Vincent would never stop, and he would never choose her. He talked about Olivia like she was nothing. Rebecca sobbed. "Just another deal to close. When I heard she died, I wanted to go to the police, but I was scared. His family is so powerful. I thought no one would believe me." "We believe you," Janet said gently, "and we need your help." Rebecca agreed to testify. She had recordings on her phone, conversations where Vincent had discussed his plans. She had access to financial documents showing how the Hartwells had systematically stolen from their previous victims. Most importantly, she had text messages from the night of Olivia's attempted murder. The night before the gala, Daniel couldn't sleep. He found Lily sitting outside the guest house, staring at the stars. "Having second thoughts?" he asked, sitting beside her. "Terrified thoughts," Lily admitted. "Tomorrow I'm walking back into a world that thinks I'm dead. I'm confronting a man who tried to murder me, and I'm betting everything on the hope that justice actually exists." "It does," Daniel said. "It has to." Lily turned to look at him. "Why are you doing all this? You could have just taken me to the hospital that night and walked away. You could have ignored me when I left. Instead, you're risking your company, your reputation, maybe even your life." "Why?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Because when I pulled you out of that car, I made a choice. I chose to care about what happened to you. And I can't just stop caring now. That's not who I am." "Sophie is lucky to have you as a father," Lily said softly. "My wife used to say that I collect broken things." Daniel smiled sadly. She meant it lovingly. "I guess she was right. But you're not broken, Olivia. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met." It was the first time he'd called her by her real name. Lily reached out and squeezed his hand. "Whatever happens tomorrow," she said, "thank you for seeing me, for believing me, for giving me a chance to fight back." They sat together in the darkness, two people who'd been strangers just weeks ago, now bound together by circumstance and something deeper, something neither of them was quite ready to name. The next morning, Daniel woke to his phone buzzing. Multiple messages from Janet, all saying the same thing in different ways. "We have a problem," he called her immediately. "What's wrong?" "Rebecca's missing," Janet said, her voice tight with worry. "She didn't show up to work. Her apartment looks like she left in a hurry. Either she got cold feet and ran, or Vincent found out she was helping us." Daniel felt cold dread settle in his stomach. Without Rebecca's testimony and evidence, their case was much weaker. But they'd come too far to turn back now. "We go ahead with the plan," he said. "We have enough. We have to have enough." That evening, Daniel helped Lily get ready. She wore a simple but elegant dress, her hair styled, makeup covering the fading bruises. She looked like the Olivia Morrison from the newspaper photos. Confident, powerful, alive. "You ready for this?" Daniel asked. Lily took a deep breath. "Let's go crash my own memorial gala." The car ride to the venue felt both endless and too short. Daniel's security team surrounded them, but he knew that once they were inside, anything could happen. Vincent had already tried to kill Lily once. What would he do when she walked back into his life like a ghost? They were about to find out. As they pulled up to the hotel where the gala was being held, Daniel saw the crowd of people in elegant clothes streaming inside. Somewhere in there was Vincent Hartwell, accepting awards and sympathy for the wife he'd murdered. But tonight, the dead would speak. And the whole world would listen. The ballroom was massive, filled with at least 300 people in expensive clothes. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and waiters moved through the crowd carrying trays of champagne. Daniel recognized several CEOs and politicians. This was exactly the kind of crowd Vincent would want to impress. "He's up there," Lily whispered, her grip tight on Daniel's arm. On the stage at the far end of the room, Vincent Hartwell stood at a podium, looking every bit the grieving husband. Tall, handsome, perfectly dressed in a black suit, he was mid-speech, talking about his late wife's dedication to medical innovation. Olivia believed that healthcare was a human right, Vincent said, his voice carrying across the room. She would have wanted her father's company to continue that mission. In her memory, I pledged to honor her vision. Daniel felt Lily stiffen beside him. They both knew Vincent was planning to do the exact opposite. He'd already started selling off the research divisions that weren't immediately profitable. "Remember the plan," Daniel murmured. "We wait until he's done speaking, then you walk up there while my team starts the live stream." But Lily had stopped listening. She was staring at something near the stage. Daniel followed her gaze and his blood ran cold. Rebecca was there, alive, but she wasn't alone. Vincent's brother, Christopher Hartwell, had his hand on her elbow, guiding her toward a side exit. Rebecca's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "They have her," Lily said. "They know she was helping us." Daniel made a split-second decision. He signaled to his security team, and two of them quietly followed Christopher and Rebecca. Then he pulled out his phone and texted his tech team, "Start the live stream now. Release everything." On stage, Vincent was wrapping up his speech. "And now, I'm honored to accept the Medical Innovation Award on behalf of my beloved late wife. Olivia, this is for you." The crowd applauded. Vincent smiled humbly. And that's when Lily started walking toward the stage. At first, nobody noticed. Just another guest moving through the crowd. But as she got closer, people started turning. Whispers began. Someone gasped, then someone else. The ripple of recognition moved through the ballroom like a wave. Vincent was still on stage holding his award when the whispers reached him. He looked up, probably wondering what the commotion was about. His eyes found Lily standing at the base of the stage stairs. The color drained from his face. The award slipped from his hands and hit the stage with a loud clang. For a long moment, Vincent just stared, frozen like he was seeing a ghost, because he was. "Hello, Vincent," Lily said, her voice steady. She climbed the stairs to the stage. "Sorry I'm late to my own memorial." The ballroom erupted. People were on their feet. Cameras were flashing. Someone screamed. The reporters in the crowd rushed forward, phones and cameras up, capturing everything. Vincent recovered quickly. Daniel had to give him credit for that. The shock disappeared from his face, replaced by concern and confusion. He was still playing his part. "Olivia?" Vincent's voice shook perfectly. "Oh my God, you're alive! We thought you died in the accident. Where have you been?" "There was no accident," Lily said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "You chained me in that car and set it on fire. You tried to murder me." The crowd went silent. Even the reporters stopped moving, shocked into stillness by the accusation. Vincent laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Darling, you're clearly confused. You've been through trauma. Let me get you some help." He reached for her, but Lily stepped back. "Don't touch me," she said. "I remember everything now. The drugs you put in my champagne at the reception. How you and your brother dragged me out when I couldn't fight back. I heard you both discussing how much my company was worth. How once I was dead, you'd finally have enough money to pay off your family's debts." "This is insane." Vincent turned to the crowd, playing to them. "My wife has been missing for weeks. She's clearly suffered a breakdown. Can someone please call for medical assistance?" But Daniel was already moving. He walked onto the stage, his phone in his hand connected to the large screens around the ballroom. His tech team had done their job. Documents were already appearing on the screens. Financial records, text messages, photos. "These are records of the Hartwell family's finances," Daniel announced. "They're millions in debt. Vincent needed his wife's inheritance to survive. But there's more." More images flashed on the screens. Photos of Catherine Wells, the woman who died 8 years ago. Then another woman, Jennifer Krause, who died 6 years ago. Both had been engaged to Vincent. Both had died in convenient accidents shortly after changing their wills. Vincent Hartwell has done this before. Daniel continued. Multiple times. He finds wealthy women, marries them, and then they die. Every single time he inherits their money. The crowd was in chaos now. People were shouting questions. Vincent's father, the retired judge, was trying to push through the crowd toward the stage, his face red with anger. These documents are fabricated, Vincent shouted. This is a setup. My lawyers will— Your lawyers can't help you this time, a new voice said. Everyone turned. Rebecca had broken free from Christopher and was walking toward the stage. Behind her, Daniel's security team had Christopher restrained. Rebecca climbed the stairs, her hands shaking but her voice strong. I worked for Vincent for 5 years, Rebecca said. I loved him. I believed his lies. But I have recordings. Conversations where he discussed his plans. Text messages from the night he tried to kill Olivia. Financial documents showing how he and his family have been systematically stealing from wealthy women for over a decade. She held up her phone. I'm uploading everything to the police right now, along with the testimony of Catherine Wells's sister, who's been trying to get someone to investigate her sister's death for 8 years. Vincent's mask finally cracked. The charm disappeared, replaced by cold fury. You stupid woman. You've ruined everything. No, Rebecca said. You ruined everything the moment you decided money was worth more than human life. That's when Vincent made his move. He lunged for Lily, grabbing her arm. If I'm going down, you're coming with me. But Daniel was faster. He pulled Lily away and stepped between them. Vincent swung wildly, connecting with Daniel's jaw. Pain exploded through his face, but Daniel didn't back down. Security rushed the stage. Vincent's brother tried to run but was tackled by hotel security. Vincent's father was shouting about lawsuits and connections, but nobody was listening anymore. The police were already arriving, called by multiple guests. In the chaos, Daniel held Lily close. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. It's over, she whispered. It's really over. The next few hours were a blur of police statements and media interviews. The story exploded online. The live stream had been watched by thousands of people. There was no way the Hartwells could make this disappear. But as they were giving their statements to the police, an officer pulled Daniel aside with bad news. Vincent's father still has connections, the officer said quietly. They're already filing motions, claiming that without physical evidence from the night of the attempted murder, it's all circumstantial. They're saying Olivia had a mental breakdown and ran away, that the whole thing is a delusion. Daniel felt his heart sink. What does that mean? It means this isn't over. The arrest tonight is just the beginning. The Hartwells have expensive lawyers and friends in high places. They're going to fight this with everything they have, and they're already filing emergency motions claiming Olivia is mentally unfit. They want her company placed in conservatorship while they contest the charges. Lily overheard. She looked devastated. So even though everyone saw what happened tonight, even though we have recordings and documents, they might still win? They're going to try, the officer admitted. Legal battles like this can drag on for years. And it's going to cost millions in legal fees. I'm sorry, but you need to be prepared for a long fight. Later that night, back at Daniel's house, they sat in stunned silence. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving only exhaustion and worry. I can't afford years of legal battles, Lily said. Vincent has frozen all my assets. I have nothing. And even if we win eventually, he'll have destroyed my father's company by then. All those research programs, the affordable medicine initiatives, everything my father built, it'll be gone. Daniel took her hand. We'll figure it out. We've come this far. But privately, he was worried too. The Hartwells were wounded, but they weren't defeated. And wounded animals were the most dangerous. His phone buzzed with a news alert. His stomach dropped as he read it. Vincent's father has filed an emergency injunction, Daniel said. They're claiming you're not mentally stable to control Morrison Pharmaceuticals. They want a judge to place the company in conservatorship tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? Lily looked stricken. How can they move that fast? Because the judge hearing the case used to work with Vincent's father. Daniel said grimly. They're calling in every favor they have. Lily stood up and walked to the window, her shoulders slumped. Maybe I should just let it go, walk away. At least we stopped them from killing anyone else. Maybe that has to be enough. You don't mean that, Daniel said, don't I? Lily turned to face him. Look what this has cost already. You've spent a fortune helping me. Your daughter had to leave town. You got punched in the face tonight. And for what? So we can spend the next 5 years in court while the Hartwells drain every penny I have left? For justice, Daniel said firmly. For your father's legacy. For all the people, Morrison Pharmaceuticals could help if it stays in the right hands. I'm so tired, Lily whispered. I don't know if I have the strength to keep fighting. Daniel crossed the room and took her hands in his. Then we fight together. You're not alone in this anymore. They stood there in the darkness, two people who'd been strangers a month ago, now bound by something stronger than either of them had expected. Outside, the media circus continued. Inside, they tried to figure out how to win a battle that seemed impossible. But neither of them knew that help was coming from a place they never expected. Someone had been watching the live stream tonight. Someone who had their own reasons to hate the Hartwell family. And that person was about to change everything. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The call came at 6 a.m. Daniel answered his phone half asleep, expecting more bad news. Mr. Chen, my name is Patricia Wells. You don't know me, but I watched the live stream last night. I need to meet with you and Olivia immediately. Daniel was suddenly wide awake. Wells, are you related to Catherine Wells? She was my sister, Patricia said, and I've been waiting 8 years for someone to finally expose what Vincent Hartwell did to her. I have something that's going to help you win this fight. They met at a quiet diner an hour later. Patricia was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a determined set to her jaw. She laid a worn briefcase on the table between them. After Catherine died, I knew something was wrong, Patricia began. My sister was a strong swimmer. The idea that she drowned in calm water never made sense. So I started investigating. I spent years gathering evidence, but every lawyer I talked to said it wasn't enough. The Hartwells were too powerful, too connected. She opened the briefcase and pulled out files, photos, and a small recording device. But I never stopped collecting evidence. And last night when I saw Olivia alive, when I saw Vincent's face on that stage, I knew this was the moment I'd been waiting for. Patricia's eyes were fierce. Catherine called me the night before she died. She left a voicemail. I want you to hear it. She pressed play on the recording device. A young woman's voice filled the air, scared and shaking. Patty, it's me. Something's wrong. Vincent has been acting strange. He keeps asking me to sign papers to transfer accounts. I heard him on the phone with his brother, talking about insurance policies and accidents. I'm scared. I think I made a terrible mistake marrying him. If anything happens to me, please don't believe it was an accident. Please investigate. I love you. The recording ended. Lily had tears streaming down her face. Daniel felt anger burning in his chest. I gave this to the police 8 years ago, Patricia said bitterly. They said it wasn't enough. That she was probably just having wedding jitters. That I was a grieving sister seeing conspiracy where there was only tragedy. She looked at both of them. But now there's a pattern. Multiple women. Multiple suspicious deaths. This time they can't ignore it. There's more. Patricia continued. She pulled out financial documents. I'm a forensic accountant. I've been tracking the Hartwell family's money for years. Every time Vincent marries someone, there's a massive debt payment right after she dies. I can trace the money from his wives' estates directly to the people the Hartwells owe. Loan sharks, gambling debts, failed investments. It's all here. Daniel looked through the documents, his mind racing. This was exactly what they needed. Hard evidence connecting Vincent to multiple victims, showing a clear pattern and motive. Why didn't you come forward before? Lily asked gently. Patricia's expression was pained. I tried. Nobody would listen. The Hartwells destroyed my credibility. They spread rumors that I was mentally unstable, obsessed, making up stories because I couldn't accept my sister's death. I lost my job, lost friends. I almost lost my mind. She straightened her shoulders. But I never lost my evidence. And now, finally, people are ready to hear the truth. The court hearing was scheduled for 10 that morning. Daniel, Lily, and Patricia arrived with a team of lawyers. The courtroom was packed with reporters and spectators. Vincent was there with his father and a small army of expensive attorneys. When Vincent saw Patricia walk in, the color drained from his face. The Hartwell's lawyer went first, arguing that Olivia had experienced a traumatic breakdown and wasn't capable of managing her company. He painted Vincent as a concerned husband, heartbroken by his wife's disappearance and now worried about her mental state. My client only wants what's best for his wife, the lawyer said smoothly. Clearly, she needs medical care and supervision, not control of a multi-billion-dollar company. Then it was their turn. Lily's lawyer presented Patricia's evidence. Catherine's voicemail, the financial records, testimony from Jennifer Krause's family, who'd also never believed their daughter's death was an accident. And Rebecca's recordings, where Vincent clearly discussed his plans to marry Olivia for her money, But the moment that changed everything came from someone nobody expected. The courtroom doors opened, and an older woman walked in. She was thin, nervous, with graying hair pulled back in a simple bun. "She looked like she hadn't slept in days, Your Honor," she said in a shaking voice. "I have testimony to give." The judge looked confused. "And you are?" "My name is Margaret Hartwell," the woman said. "I'm Vincent's mother." The courtroom exploded with noise. Vincent jumped to his feet. "Mother, what are you doing?" Margaret walked to the witness stand, refusing to look at her son. "I'm doing what I should have done years ago. I'm telling the truth." For the next hour, Margaret testified. She told the court how her husband had lost the family fortune through bad investments and gambling, how he'd pressured their sons to find wealthy women to marry, how she'd watched Vincent court and marry 3 different women, and how each one had died under suspicious circumstances. "I told myself I was imagining things," Margaret said, tears rolling down her face, "that my husband and sons wouldn't actually hurt these women. But deep down I knew. I always knew. And I did nothing." She finally looked at Olivia. "When I saw you on the news last night alive, I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. I can't bring back Catherine or Jennifer, but I can make sure justice happens this time." She provided documents, emails, recordings of conversations between her husband and sons, evidence that only a family member would have access to. It was devastating and undeniable. Vincent's father tried to interrupt, shouting about betrayal and loyalty, but the judge ordered him removed from the courtroom. Vincent just sat there, his face blank, knowing it was over. The judge didn't take long to make her decision. All charges against Olivia were dismissed. Vincent, his father, and his brother were ordered to remain in custody pending trial for multiple counts of fraud, attempted murder, and conspiracy. Morrison Pharmaceuticals was immediately returned to Olivia's control. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. But Daniel and Olivia just held hands and pushed through the crowd, Patricia walking beside them. They'd won. Finally, actually won. 3 months later, the Hartwell trial concluded. All 3 men were convicted and sentenced to lengthy prison terms. The evidence had been overwhelming. Margaret's testimony, combined with everything else, left no room for doubt. Morrison Pharmaceuticals flourished under Olivia's leadership. She reinstated all her father's humanitarian programs and started new ones. She established a foundation in Catherine's and Jennifer's names to help victims of domestic violence and financial abuse. Patricia became Olivia's chief financial officer, finally able to use her skills for something positive. Rebecca rebuilt her life, going back to school to become a counselor, helping other women escape abusive relationships. And Daniel? He was sitting in his backyard on a sunny Saturday afternoon, watching Sophie chase butterflies just like she had months ago. But this time Olivia was with her, laughing and running alongside his daughter. "Daddy, watch this," Sophie called out, showing off a cartwheel that was more enthusiasm than technique. "Beautiful, sweetheart," Daniel called back. Olivia walked over and sat beside him, grass stains on her jeans, her hair messy from playing. She looked nothing like the polished heiress from the newspaper photos. She looked happy, real, free. "I was thinking," Olivia said, leaning against his shoulder. "Sophie's birthday is next month. What if we have a party? Something big. Invite all her friends. Maybe a bouncy castle?" Daniel smiled. It was such a normal, everyday conversation, the kind of thing that felt impossible just a few months ago when he was pulling a chained woman from a burning car. "She'd love that," Daniel said. Then more quietly, "You'd really want to stay for that?" Olivia turned to look at him, her expression soft. "Daniel, I'm not going anywhere. You saved my life. You gave me a safe place to heal. You helped me fight for justice and for my father's legacy. And somewhere along the way, you and Sophie became my family. We're pretty good at collecting strays," Daniel joked, but his voice was thick with emotion. "I'm not a stray," Olivia said firmly. "I'm exactly where I choose to be." Sophie ran over, throwing herself into both their laps. "Can Liv come to my birthday party?" Daniel and Olivia looked at each other and laughed. "I think that can be arranged," Daniel said. Later that evening, after Sophie was in bed, Daniel found Olivia on the back porch, the same place they'd sat so many times during those difficult weeks.